Hello, and welcome to the Cycle Endometriosis podcast, where we will delve deep into experiences, challenges, and triumphs of those navigating a life with endometriosis. Join us as we share the stories of resilience, offer insights from experts, and foster a community of support for those affected by this often misunderstood condition. Whether you're newly diagnosed, a seasoned warrior, or seeking understanding, I hope this podcast is here to help empower you and uplift you on your journey. Tune in as we break the silence, shatter stigmas, and amplify the voices of the endometriosis community. Medical disclaimer: this podcast is not intended for the purpose of providing medical advice. All information, content, and material of this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to serve as a substitute for the consultation, diagnosis, and/or medical treatment of a qualified physician or healthcare provider. Thank you so much for being here, and now on to the show. Hi, everyone. Happy fall. Thank you so much for being here. If you are listening to this episode, it's going live on October 17th, and I just wanted to let everyone know that I do have a pre-sale campaign of my book going right now, and it will be live until November 9th, and I am linking the opportunity to check it out in the show notes. There's no obligation, obviously, but I would really appreciate all of your support. If you are able to, it would mean so much to me. And if you can't, I totally understand that too. I will have an audio book coming out eventually, and I'll be sharing clips potentially here and there on the podcast. If you're watching the video right now, you can tell I'm not feeling so great. I'm recording this with no makeup on and just got out of bed to do this, but wanted to let everybody know and then just give a big thank you to everyone who has been a guest on the show, and for you, the listeners of the show, supporting it. It means so much to me. I did read the introduction of my book in the last podcast, so if you want to check that out, again, it would mean so much to me. If you don't want to, I'll quickly just tell you about it. The title's Grateful Anyway: A Memoir of Small Wins and Chronic Illness. I'm hoping that it's a story of resilience, hope, and finding meaning in the midst of having this disease. So that was my goal in writing it. It's basically just a kind of a chronological story of what I've been through with endo, but then how I really tried to find the little highlights and wins every single day. Thank you again for listening. Thank you for being here. And if you're interested in learning more, there is a link in the show notes. I appreciate you. I hope you're feeling okay today. Now on to this month's episode. Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's episode of the Cycle podcast. Thank you so much for being here today, and thank you so much to our guest who's joining us today. Fawn, thank you very much for being here. I'm very excited to chat with you. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me come on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I look forward to chatting with you. Fawn and I have been emailing back and forth. Fawn has written a book called Healing in the Fight, and we're going to talk a lot about that on the show today. But we're also going to talk about Fawn's endo journey and story that really kind of contributed to this book, and learn more about, your endo journey. So with that being said, why don't you start off by just telling us a little bit about yourself, anything and everything, and then we'll start talking about endometriosis.
Yes. So my name is Fawn Walker-Montgomery, and I am a mother, I'm a wife, I am a longtime community organizer. I've been doing the majority of my organizing in the greater Pittsburgh area we affectionately call the Moore Valley community. I'm also a consultant and new author, and a writer as well for the New Pittsburgh Courier. I write a monthly column, and I run a nonprofit focused on social justice and Black liberation.
Fawn, you sound very busy. And you wrote a book, and you have endometriosis. My goodness. Okay, well,
yes.
Thank you again for coming on and for all you do for people who are struggling with endometriosis. Why don't you start just telling us, when did you notice like something was maybe off, or you weren't feeling right, or just kind of the first signs of endo?
So for me, I was 12. So I started my period, I was about 11 and a half. And originally it was just weird, like a period, something I had to wear, I called it a weird thing. It was a pad. I had to wear once a month. But then when I got to be the age of 12 was when the pain really kicked in, and it was debilitating pain, especially for a 12-year-old. It was a lot of nausea, passing out, unable to walk, constantly at the school nurse, trying to figure out what was going on. I left school a lot. I missed a lot of school at that age, and I was just in middle school when all
Yeah.
of it kind
Yeah.
of occurred.
And at that time, were you just thinking like this is what it's like and this is what everybody is going through, or what were your thoughts? Like this is just how it is when you have a period?
Yeah, everybody I talked to in school, it wasn't that bad. So I figured something was off because people said, "Oh, my stomach would hurt," but I said, "Not like you, not like what you have to go through." So I knew something was wrong. Something wasn't normal, I would say.
So you
And
knew in middle school at a younger age
yeah, because
something
I
was
said
off.
my friends were in pain, but not like I was in pain. And it
Yeah.
got to the point where I had to like carry snack packs to school with crackers and water for the nausea, Tylenol for the pain. And then at like 12 and a half, I had to go to the gynecologist, which was like a lot for a 12-year-old to have to even imagine. I didn't even know what that was called. I was like, what is this doctor even called? I don't even know what this
Right.
means.
Yeah.
And it was traumatizing to say the least, because you have to do the forceps, and I was a virgin, so
Yeah.
I didn't
12.
know what was going on. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Why do you have to put that thing? What's that thing?
How old am I? I'm 46 and I still dread that thing. I
Right.
think I'm 46. Yeah, I'm 46. And
Yeah.
I still dread that. I can, at 12, I don't remember my first appointment, but it wasn't that young. That's very young.
Yeah, it was. It was very young. And they put me on birth control because they said that would help regulate the pain and all of
Yeah.
that. So I was
And
on
so
birth
that was
control.
at 12,
I was at
like
12.
12 and a half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I stayed on birth control for 10 years. At times they would increase the doses. Like when I got in high school, I would have periods, like it would work and then it wouldn't work. When I got to high school, it got worse. And I was throwing up again, passing out again. So they increased the dosage of the birth control.
Oh,
That
wow.
happened at least twice when I was on them.
So still in high school, things were just getting worse. You were taking the birth control. You'd have
Mm-hmm.
like good cycles and then really rough cycles.
Mm-hmm.
And then so they increased the dose. Did that help at all?
It helped for a little bit.
Yeah.
One thing I do remember, and I kind of talk about in the book, is in high school, I played basketball and I ran track. So I feel like that helped more than anything. And I did that my freshman year, but then I stopped doing that and I kind of got back into fighting racism, which
Yeah.
is a really big theme in my book because I dealt with that in middle school and I dealt with it in high school. So it almost became something I used to avoid
The pain.
the pain, and it would kind of help me push through, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would always kind of get focused on that and not myself.
Yeah.
But I do remember that the movement and just being mobile and being athletic helped
Helped.
when
Yeah.
I was in like a freshman year of high school. But when I stopped, the pain kind of went back to
Got worse.
yeah.
So after high school, what did you do?
I went to college in Charlotte, North Carolina. I went to Johnson C. Smith University. It's a HBCU. And my freshman year, the pain is just once again came back. And I'm sure some of this is contributed to like stress and being in a new area with I didn't know anyone there, that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
the pain once again was unbearable. Where I was in the shower a lot during my period, in my room a lot, crying, like hunched over a lot. And then my doctors were like back at home, and I was at school, so they increased the dosage again. And
Oh
we
boy.
had we had to go and get the prescriptions and all that switched over so I could take the birth control.
Were you noticing any like other symptoms outside of your cycle at this time too? Like fatigue, nausea, just a general sense of not feeling great?
Yeah, definitely the fatigue and the nausea were really big. I didn't have a lot of heavy bleeding. I just had a lot of pain. And then I would pass like a lot of blood clots. I noticed that happening a lot
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
well because I also had fibroids
Yeah.
at this time. They said I have both. both of them. So I noticed a lot of that as well when my period would come.
Yeah. Yeah. So what happened next after? So you increase this dose, you're at college, you're not feeling great. What happened after that?
So then I would have spotting throughout my periods. That started as well. So they increased the dosage, and once again, I helped for about 6 months. I would say the pain got less and less, and then it would increase again, and that was on and off throughout college
Yeah.
for me. Really, I noticed that the more active I was, the less the pain would be. And in the book, I talk about I took a health class and I read about fibroids in this health class, and that was the first time I felt like I seen myself in any kind of medical journal because I did a report on fibroids in Black women, and I was like, okay, maybe this could be,
What's going on? Right.
yeah. So,
Did you know at that point that you had fibroids? Had they done some testing in like middle school, high school that they knew that you had fibroids
yes, in high school,
in high school?
because
Okay.
after I went to the gynecologist, I had to regularly go,
Yeah.
and I remember all of my pap smears being abnormal. Like none of them ever
We're
came
normal.
back. Yeah, they always came back
Yeah.
abnormal, and it was
Yeah.
either the fibroids, and no one mentioned endo at
Of
this
course
point.
not. Of course not. Okay, so you take this health class and you learn a little bit, and now maybe you're like, okay, this makes maybe a little more sense why some of my friends aren't having these same like really, really painful cycles. What did you do after that class?
After
Did you go
that
back to your
class,
doctor and say like, hey, what is going on?
I went back and I said maybe it's my fibroids. So then I started on this journey of eating differently and trying to be more athletic. But then once again, I was fighting this racism, and I went right back into that, into fighting that, and focusing my attention away from myself, really onto fighting. And I kind of did that. And the pain was on and off. And then when I graduated college, I got pregnant. I was 23 when I got pregnant. And that pain helped, of course, because I was pregnant. So I wasn't having periods.
Right.
So then after I had my daughter, I had my daughter when I was 24. After I had her, the pain came back at the level I've never felt before.
It's really interesting because other people I've interviewed on the show had similar experiences where it was like it came back with a vengeance.
Yes, it came back with like I was passing out, unable to go to work. I was in the ER at least 6 to 8 times.
Was this always around your cycle, or now was it starting to become more often that you'd have pain outside of the cycle too? And were you still on birth control at this point?
I was not on birth control, but they wanted to put me back on it.
Of course.
That was their solution.
Yeah.
Um, and the pain was it was really intense. So I would go to ER and they would give me the Dilaudid and the Vicodin, and it would last for an hour, and it was just wouldn't work. So my mother actually went to the doctors with me to advocate that they test me for endo because she has endo, and she said I feel like you might have endo,
Yeah.
So she went with me and she really taught me how to advocate. I had a notebook and she made me write down questions, things to ask, and she said, "No, you need to test her." So this happened 3 times, and at the third time, he was like, "Okay, we're just going to test her." So I did the laparoscopy,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Mm-hmm.
came back that and at this point I was 25, and it came back that I did have endo. And the only thing they said was I might have trouble getting pregnant. They said we don't know. You might take this birth control. It's a reproductive disease. You come back for DNCs to get a scraping, and you'll be okay. That's all they said.
Right. And so at that point, you probably were just like, okay, like I've got this thing. It's fine. I know that's how I felt because no one explained it to me.
Mm-hmm. Right. I was like, okay, I have bad periods. I'm having trouble getting pregnant. I had a baby, so I'm like, I can get
Yeah.
pregnant.
Yeah.
So I was
Yeah.
like, okay. So I kind of went on for the next few years with the pain being on and off, and then it got progressively worse. And
Yeah.
every time I would go, they would say, "Oh, you have diverticulitis. That's what that is, or you have gastritis, or it's what you're eating, and you have to lose weight." And there would be times I would be arguing with the doctors, like, "Well, that's not working.
Yeah.
It's just not working. Something else has to give." And I'm a public person. I'm a former elected official. So I'm on the news, right, fighting for
Yeah.
racism. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, you're fine. You're strong enough. You got this. Because we see you on TV, so you'll be, oh, it's just a little pain.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And did you go back on birth control at that point? You did.
I tried all the things.
Yeah.
I did the birth control, like the very strong dose, the pills, and then I did the Depo-Provera shot for a
Mm-hmm.
while.
Did that help?
It helped for a little bit, but it completely took my period away.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when I was trying to get pregnant, I had to get on a pill to get the period to come back,
All
and then I
right.
still didn't get pregnant.
Oh my gosh. How did you feel like emotionally during all this? Because it's all these hormones that the shot, right? And the
hmm
birth control. And then I'm not sure what the pill is that helps you get your period back. I'm assuming that's some sort of hormone as well. How are you
Yes,
like handling this with a new baby at home and all of the things that you're fighting for, out in the ecosphere? Like, how are you handling all of this mentally? It's a lot.
I was very overwhelmed
Yeah.
during this time because I would go to the doctors and I felt like I was being gaslighted, but not just it was like racially gaslighted.
Yeah.
But they would constantly bring up the fact that I was a Black woman, that I was strong, and that I can handle this. And then it got to the point where they're like, "Oh, maybe it's in your head because we tested everything and nothing's coming back. So we're guessing it's in your head, and it's just diverticulitis." So it was just the constant gaslighting, and I would have
Yeah.
to psych myself up before I go to the doctor. I'd have
Yeah.
to have my notebook with things written down, but mentally, and sometimes I would just cancel the appointment because I didn't even want to um, deal with it. It was very overwhelming. Then on top of fighting what I was fighting in my community,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it was a lot to kind of to go through for so many years,
Mhm. Mhm.
and just never being told. I just thinking back on it when I was writing a book, like no one ever mentioned endo during those times. Like maybe it's your endo.
For
Like
so many years too.
yeah, like no one bothered to say, oh, it can spread.
Yeah.
So it could be your endo. So I'm thinking it was what I was eating, diverticulitis, gastritis,
Mhm.
sciatica. They said I had
Right. All
all
of
the
it
things.
is
Yeah.
endo related. Now that you look
Yes.
back, I'm sure you
Mm-hmm.
know that, right? Like, how did you when you started to go like back to these doctors, just for people who are listening, you said you kept
Mm-hmm.
a journal and you would, keep information and go back. How would you advocate for yourself for the people who are
Mm-hmm.
listening who may be really struggling right now that are dealing with exactly what you went through? What are some tips that you could maybe give them that helped you?
So for me, I would use up here we have, and all insurance companies typically have like a communication system. You communicate with your doctor. So up here, we call that my UPMC in Pennsylvania, the part of Pittsburgh I'm in. So I would communicate with my doctors weekly. I would have this is what we talked about at the last doctor's visit, and this is my task. These are your tasks. This is what we need to follow up with. Did you communicate with my stomach doctor? Did you communicate with this doctor? So I always wanted to make sure that they were all, kind of communicating with one another. And I would always ask them about methods outside of taking like pain meds. Now, they never endorsed it. They say, oh, you don't need to do that. But I still looked it up, for myself and made sure.
Yeah.
And talking to other people about it, other people who have endometriosis, and hey, did this work for you? What doctors do you recommend going to? I went through a lot of doctors
Yeah.
throughout that time, and I kind of went on that. I had several DNCs, and that would help, and the pain would come back. So that went on for years. And then when I was in after I turned 40, in 2020, after I had a battle with long COVID, the pain kind of came back and it never left. And
Yeah.
that's what kind of that led to the hysterectomy.
So then you end up having, and how are you feeling now? Yeah.
Um, After the hysterectomy, the endometriosis did come back, which I knew that was a high possibility because there's no cure for endometriosis. However, I had no quality of life at the point when I decided to have the hysterectomy, and I was suicidal. I was just at the point where I was like, something has to give here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then that's when I found out, that it could spread, and that it had spread to my rectum, possibly other places. So I had to do it, just for the pain level to decrease. So the pain went from like 100 to like a 30 after the hysterectomy. So it helped with the pain.
Yeah.
And then about a year later, because after the hysterectomy, I still have to have the test to make sure that the endo's going. And these tests are horrible. They put you in the MRI machine, and then they stick things in your vagina and your rectum. And then that test seen that there was like a small patch on my right pelvic area. So I
They do
started,
that contrast with that. That's like with the contrast too, right?
yes,
Yeah.
with the contrast, yeah. So it kind of showed that they left some remnants in there as well. But eventually that did decrease, that did go away on the scans. But the pain is on and off now. But I've been doing a lot of natural methods like meditation and yoga and breathing. And then I use African spirituality as well to do some healing work. So all of that has been extremely helpful.
Yeah, I want to get into some of those things for the listeners, things that may help them. But in
Hmm.
2020, when you had the hysterectomy, did they also do excision surgery for the endo? They did. So
Yes,
they
yeah.
removed what they could, but it sounds like, but then you went and had the MRI and they still saw some nodules on the scan.
Yes, the surgeon said that I had one of the worst cases of endometriosis they ever seen. I had stage 4, which I didn't even know that there were stages.
Yeah, yeah,
When I when I finally went to the endometriosis surgeon after fighting to get to him, he said, "Well, you have stage 4," and I said, "When did there become stages?"
yeah. Because no one ever told you because those other doctors just don't have the experience in what this is. Yeah. How did you find, so again, people are listening, they may be just starting
Yeah,
out and so how did you find a specialist? How did you find someone that you could trust and that you felt like comfortable working
yeah.
with?
The internet. When I went, when I went to my gynecologist with the pain I was having, like the last final run after I turned 40, she was like, "Oh, maybe you have an STD." I was like, "I do not have an STD. Absolutely do not have that." So when she seen the test results, she said, "Oh, well, it's you have a little bit of tumors and cysts, and we'll give you birth control, and it can go away." And I said, "No, no,
Mhm.
I need to see a surgeon." So she was like, "Well, I'm booked up." I said, "Not you. I need to see like somebody that specializes in endo." So she gave me a list,
Okay.
and then I called, and they were booked up. So then I googled another list for myself, and then I seen who was available, and it was 3 people. So I called them weekly until a spot opened up, and then I was able to find somebody. And then to my surprise, there's an endometriosis clinic in my area, but
Really?
that I found out through googling, and calling, my UPMC. They have a website. I just started googling stuff, so I found the surgeon, and then the surgeon examined me within 5 minutes. It was like, "Yeah, your endo definitely spread to your rectum. You have to have this hysterectomy immediately." And thank goodness I did, because during the surgery I had an abscess that exploded in my stomach. And he was like, if you would have held on any longer, yeah,
Wow. Wow.
yeah,
That was meant to happen. You were meant to find him for sure.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Wow, that is incredible. Well, I know your book walks through a lot of your story. I wanted to
mm-hmm,
have a little snippet of that for the listeners, but I really want to talk about too the things that you had just mentioned. For people who are really in it right now and struggling, obviously advocating for yourself, I'm sure, is one big thing that you would say, but what are some of the things that you've learned that you now use that help you on
mm-hmm,
a daily basis? I know you mentioned them a little bit, but I'd love for listeners to be able to hear that. I know you talk about it in your book and detail it in your book so we can stay pretty high level. But
mm-hmm.
after going through all of this and all of the stress and everything, what what are you doing now to really help?
Well, definitely radical self care. So, and I add the word radical in front of that, because you have to be radical about your own self and your own health care. And then nobody, and I mean nobody, is going to fight for you like you fight for yourself. So you have to be radical about it. So in the book, I talk about how I set boundaries with people, but really stuck to them, and try not to have no guilt with saying no to people, and not over explaining my no. Just know I can't do it. And if I can do it, these are my specific boundaries with that. I blocked people. I was the block queen. I was blocking everybody I had to block on social media, on my phone, anybody that kind of began to stress, because endometriosis, there's inflammation, causes inflammation. So stress causes the inflammation to grow and spread. And while there's no cure for endo, there are things you can do to stop it from kind of growing and kind of spreading. So the boundary piece and being really assertive about your own self, because for me, I would use my activism as a way to just deal with that and not deal with myself. So I had to forgive myself a lot, and I had to do that work to kind of unlearn some of the practices that I had learned. And a lot of that for me was rooted in unlearning white supremacy and how that showed up in my own life. And a lot of that came with that radical self care and that boundary piece. So that, to anyone, that's the first step. You have to decide enough is enough, and I'm going to put myself first. You cannot do this if you don't have that attitude.
Yeah. And was it hard to get there? Because I know that's something that I will just give until I can't anymore. And how do, I'm sure you talk about this in the book, like, how do you get there? Does it probably took you time to get to that place where it's radical, right? Because you
Mm-hmm.
probably do it a little bit, but then it's still not enough. And you really just have to be, like you said, assertive.
Yeah, I just had to get to a point where I was like, look, enough is enough. And I had to sit in stillness and I had to rest. I had to really rest and not just like go to sleep rest, like
Like
rest my
rest,
body,
your
like
nervous
rest my
system.
body. Right,
Yeah.
right.
Everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In this
yeah.
world that we live in does not, even just with social media as an example, it's just like it's chaotic.
Right. It's always on the go, and
Yeah.
you have to be able to rest. So when I did that, I was really able to pick up some more natural methods that my ancestors would use. And I really embraced African spirituality, and I practice Hoodoo. So with that, I do a majority of natural methods, and I use some Western medicine as well. But I really primarily focus on the natural medicines and the elements like water and air. And I take a lot of baths, and I put Himalaya salt or Epsom salt in the baths.
Mhm.
And those are rituals and traditions that come from my ancestors. And so I'm just kind of reusing those now. And the baths really help. I remember, like I still had to work when all this was happening, and I would be in
Yeah.
a I would be in a bathtub with my camera off on Zoom meetings.
No, I love that. I mean, hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. I mean, I second that. On Sundays, I always take an Epsom salt bath. I like to get the lavender too, because there's something, I'm really attracted to the scent lavender, I'm sure, because it's calming. Most people probably are, but I really like, I buy the hand soap, it's lavender. Just there's something about that scent that calls to me.
Mm-hmm. And that's good. What kind of grounds you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I do use oils as well, and I smell them as well
Hmm.
in the morning. So people with chronic illness, like we have to have, for me, I have to have a slow morning, and I can't be rushed. I just cannot be rushed. So I'll start my morning with my rest practice. Which involves the bath, which involves breathing. Throughout this process, I got certified in breath work. So I do breathing in the morning, and the breathing kind of helps with the pain. Castor oil as well will kind of I rub it on my stomach, and it'll like suck things out of you. Heat, the heating pad was
Yep.
an amazing,
Your
amazing
best
invention.
friend.
Yes, definitely my best friend. CBD helped as well for me, and that's I guess a non-traditional form. But I did all of the pills that you could possibly think of, and nothing worked. But the CBD helps. I feel like it helped to kind of loosen up some of the muscles, and then I was
Yeah.
also able to do like yoga and like move like body work and moving around. And that was helpful as well.
On the CBD, did you do like a liquid like tincture or like pills or like I know some people use like the topical salve. I
Yeah.
love the topical personally. That works really well for me. But I have done the tincture under my tongue, and I do feel like it really helps with inflammation too. Like just I feel my whole body just
Yes, absolutely. I've done all the tincture, the pills, and the like the gummies as well.
hmm
I've done all of those things with CBD, and they've all helped. Also, massages. So I
mm,
have massages into my rest practice as well. You can get a CBD massage, but some of
sounds
the
amazing.
and it all helps. Like I'll do it
Yeah.
kind of monthly, but that's
Yeah.
also where the radical self care piece comes in, because you have to be that committed, to yourself to be able to do these things monthly and to do your do your rest practice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and right to make time for it. It's probably very easy to say, "Oh, I don't have time for that today," or I am in a rush in the morning," and then you don't do it and then you pay for it later.
Yeah, yeah, you do. And then the support groups are very helpful. I joined a lot of Facebook support groups. For support group I could find, and I go in there and I ask questions, and I feel like we help each other. I go
Yeah.
to them before I go to my doctor, and then I go to my doctor, and then I
Yeah.
say this is what I want, because I ask other people, did you ever take this? And how did it react? That saved me a few times from taking things that I shouldn't have.
Yeah, a very similar experience for me too. That's where I learned that it wasn't a pelvic disease, where it's where I learned it was a full body disease. My doctor didn't tell me anything like that, same as you.
Hmm.
I didn't know it was chronic. I thought had my surgery and I was cured. Like I had no idea. And I learned a lot of that from support groups.
Yeah, yeah, they've been very helpful. And then I also changed the way I eat. So I went out and I got also certified as a wellness detox coach with Queen Afua. She's an elder, and she's been doing this work about healthy eating for years now. So I took a course with her and really changed the way I eat. And I asked, the ancestors to change my taste buds, because a few years ago I was a person you would never see eating a salad. I
No
would have been like,
salad.
I don't like salad. I don't like salad, but now I love salad. So I really had to start looking at food as medicine, and looking at how my ancestors would use herbs and what they
hmm
were growing in the garden, as ways to heal, as well as sound healing. So I have a sound therapist I work with as well, and we do sound baths, and the vibrations are really healing, and I can literally feel that kind of flowing through my body. So all of that I've kind of replaced the pills with, and
Yeah.
replaced maybe doing all the medical research with.
hmm
I've kind of replaced a lot of that with those natural methods.
Yeah. And you're feeling, I mean, you can feel the effects of doing all of that. And more long term, right? Like with chronic illness, I think look, some people yeah, I get it. Like medication you have to do it, but for me, I've kind of swayed more towards the natural route too of supplementation. I do acupuncture just because I'm like if this is here for the rest of my life, I know my poor gut from taking so much Advil because of the pain that I was in. I have gut issues and from the endo and it had it on my bowel and everything, but I just like I try not to take that anymore because I'm just worried about what's the long-term effect of taking all that where some of the more natural things I feel better taking.
Yeah, yeah. No, I can second that. I feel different and not I felt like a guinea pig
Yeah.
half the time taking all those things. Like I don't want to take anything else.
Yeah. And if it gets to a point where I'm like really, really in high level and I can't control it, then I will. I will do it. But I try on like a daily basis to find very similar to like what you're saying, find these like daily practices that will help me in the long term. So hopefully I won't get to that level 10 pain.
Right, right, right. And then on top of that, with the medical menopause, which is a whole nother book.
Yeah. That's the next book. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I understand. I understand. But yeah. Any other? Oh, you said food. This is what I want to dig into the food part. You
Hmm.
said you wouldn't be the person eating a salad, but what are some of the things that you changed in your diet? Like, what are
Hmm.
the things that you're eating that feel good, and how did you go about doing that? Did you slowly change or overnight were you like, that's it, I'm not eating this anymore, I'm only eating that?
It's very slow, and it's something I'm still doing. The first thing I started was I cut out pork, so I don't eat any pork. And then I got an assessment done, like a functional assessment done,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing I had like leaky gut, so I cut out lunch meat altogether. And then I did some natural things to reduce the inflammation. So I cut out the pork. I'm working now on cutting out beef, and I ate more salads, and I increased my fruit as well, and I increased my fiber intake,
Mm-hmm.
but fiber intake from specific foods like salad, like okra. Um,
Great, yeah.
I stopped using the microwave altogether and the air fryer, and I just use the oven now because of the possible chemicals that can come when you use microwaves and when you use air fryers. So I kind of got away from that. I cut down my sugar intake. Not that I cut it out altogether. That is something that I am definitely working on as well. I also noticed the connection with my pain in red sauce.
Interesting.
So I kind of cut down on a lot of the red sauce, the cheese,
Mhm.
and then like kind of if I do it in moderation
Yeah,
as well. But definitely increase the salads, the green food, the fruits, water as well. Increasing water was definitely helpful as well. And then just kind of researching like what herbs would specifically work for inflammation or
yeah.
what would work for stomach or bowel issues, and
Mhm.
all of that has been helpful as well. So we do have a garden in the back where we started to kind of grow food and kind of see how that would be if we're doing that, specifically from the garden, and also changing where I shop. So, like farmers markets, joining a co op and making sure we're going to the co ops. You just have to be that radical about also what you're putting into your body.
Yeah, yeah. I know one of the big things that I didn't know, but that I changed was like lotion, some of my lotions and like face things. And I didn't know, but a lot of these things had a lot of extra chemical additives, which were causing inflammation in my body. So I just now I always try to like read the back of the packages if it's like any type of lotion on my face or anything that's on my skin for a long period of time. That was a pretty hard change because it's more expensive. It's way more expensive to try and find these things that don't have these like added chemicals. But I also had read, and it was a lot from the groups like you were talking about like some of these things have like plastics in them and how that can be, potentially converted into like some sort of phytoestrogen. And I was like, oh my goodness, like I have to stop using these.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and the vitamins. So
Hmm.
I'd increase my specific vitamin intake as well. Yeah, so all of those things were especially helpful, and it's not an overnight thing when you change your diet, but a lot of that goes into like unlearning. So I
Yeah.
had to unlearn like why do I have this relationship with food? And within the wellness detox course where Queen of Food trained us, she trained us on how to recognize our emotional eating. Like I'm eating, I cut out pop and I cut down on candy. And I had to recognize like when am I eating these things? When I'm upset, I'll go get pop. I'll be like, I'm gonna treat myself.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm gonna
Mhm.
treat myself today. So, finding different ways to treat yourself. Maybe replacing some of the candy with crackers. And there's also dry fruit, which some people kind of use that as a way to kind of replace sugar.
Because it's still sweet and tastes good once you get used to it. Yeah. 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 Those are really, really helpful tips, I think, for people who are listening who, are riding along on this journey with us. That's for sure.
Mhm.
Are there any other things that you've done or tips or tricks that you want to tell the listeners or anything else you want to chat about that's in your book that we will link in the show notes so everyone can grab a
Mhm.
copy?
Just that it's so important for people to really rest and be still, and kind of sit in that stillness and figure out what works best for you. There may be somebody listening that may say, well, I changed my eating and it didn't help. And it may not help for you. But whatever that is for you, find what that is for you. And there's always something out there. The doctors don't have the final word. You have the final word. We all have the power to heal ourselves. We all have the power to fight for ourselves. And I know that some days it can seem like you're alone, and it can seem like someone's trying to take you out of here. And on those days, it's best to just rest. And then when you're up to it again, begin to fight again. Always say rest and repeat. Rest, fight, repeat. Rest, fight, repeat. You have to be that committed, that committed to yourself. And if for someone listening who loves somebody with endometriosis, I feel like this book is really helpful for that as well. And if you do love someone with endo, just listen to us when we're talking. Endo is an invisible disability, so no one can see that you have it, but you know that you have it. So just listen to people, when they're telling you their specific conditions, treatments, and then use the internet. It's a double-edged sword for some people, but use it. If your groups are online, then let them be online. If you're getting that resource from online folks, then let it be from online folks. I know with my nonprofit, we started a support group for this just based off of, me doing my research and seeing that we don't have one that was here locally. Yeah. So we started a support group in the greater Pittsburgh area.
Great.
For people. So if you don't see something out there for you, then do it yourself.
Yeah, I think that's all really fantastic advice. And I didn't even ask you this. What inspired you to write this book?
When I was at I would say my lowest, before I had the hysterectomy, and I didn't know what the hell was happening. And nobody else knew. And it was just new things coming up. And I thought to myself, what the hell is happening? Yeah. So I went to YouTube and I put my symptoms in YouTube, and all these videos of all these women came up. And I said, oh, well, maybe it's my fibroids. Maybe it's my endo. Maybe it's some of this. So that really inspired me to write the book, because I said there could be somebody else out there going through what I'm going through, and maybe they could pick up this book and say, oh, you know what? Maybe it's this. And it was like life-changing when I seen those videos of these other women talking about their symptoms, and I was like, oh. And there's videos of women talking about like growing food and how that was helpful. And I had never, and I'm 40? I got diagnosed when I was 25.
Yeah.
And I had never heard of these things. So I wanted to make sure that, my book was out there, and that it gave people a voice, and also let them know that they're not alone. Other people are experiencing this, and other people understand that you're fighting endo, but fighting things around you. Because mine was racism. Other people are fighting other things around them, and you're able to come through that. In the end, and the power of advocacy and the power of using natural methods. So I just wanted to kind of get that story out there, because I know that other people telling their stories was helpful to me, in surviving.
Yeah, I think that is just beautiful. And I really thank you for doing this and coming on the show and telling us all about it, because it's going to help a lot of people just listening to this episode, but then diving into your book. And I know it's a hard thing to do. It's a very vulnerable experience to relive all of what you've been through.
Yes, healing is messy.
That could be the quote of the show. That's for sure. It is not a straight path. It more looks like a up and down, up and down, up and down. That's for sure.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. My journey has been messy but good. Messy but really good.
Yeah. Well, I really thank you so much for being on the show. Is there anything else you want to add or chat about before we wrap up?
No, that's it. Just to let people know that they can get a copy of my book directly from me on my website, which is fawnwalker.net. And it's also available where all books are sold. It's on Goodreads, it's on Amazon, it's on Barnes and Nobles, and the ebook and the paper copy is out as well, paperback.
Yes, and I will link all of that in the show notes. And Fawn, is there anywhere where people can follow you on social channels or anything like that, which I will also link in the show notes, but you can tell us too.
Yes, I am on Facebook as Fawn Walker-Montgomery, on Instagram. It is Fawn_Montgomery. And the same as Threads and Fawn Walker-Montgomery on Substack.
Awesome. Okay, great. Well, I'll link all of that, everyone. So if you're driving and listening to this, be safe. And I'll link it all in the show notes so you can find Fawn and Fawn's book, Healing in the Fight, A Black Woman's journey with endometriosis and radical self-care. So at bookstores near you or online. So I will link all of that. Fawn, thank you again so much for coming on the show. Thank you everyone so much for listening and supporting the show. As Fawn mentioned, advocacy is so important in speaking up about this disease. And I feel like that's the only way that we're going to make change is by telling stories and telling people what we've been through as endo patients. If you like the show, please give it a review. That helps us just get more reach, and that's what we need. That's what we were just talking about. And speaking of books, I mentioned in my last show that I'm also writing a book, and I will have a pre-sale coming out soon. So if you want to find out more about that, the email list is linked below in the show notes as well. But that is it for today. Fawn, have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you again. And thank you, listeners, for being here.
Thank you.